is the Koreans have announced that North Korean's leader, Kim Jong-un, wants to sit down with the president and discuss denuclearizing the Korean peninsula, not just North Korea, but the whole peninsula. And Trump has said, yes, he'll do it. So in the first moment that this happened, if you want to see the media turn, you can watch it turn in real time. This is actually amazing. The first moment, even MSNBC is celebrating because they had just been so sure, so convinced that Donald Trump was leading us all into nuclear holocaust. Suddenly, Aaron Burnett and the whole on CNN and the people on MSNBC, suddenly they're celebrating.
And of course, opening the door to the big question. If President Trump can truly solve this problem, that would be going down as a great president. And there's no way around that. That is the reality here.
This is actually a moment that very few of us thought we'd ever see. The North Koreans agreeing to put denuclearization on the table, agreeing to talks with the South Koreans, inviting the President of the United States to have the talks, agreeing to suspend their nuclear and missile tests while they're doing it, in exchange for what? In exchange for nothing. But this is definitely an initiative worth pursuing. The talks themselves, while they go on, will freeze the program. That is a major national security achievement.
This all came up just in the last few hours that this was going to be announced tonight. Now, I think back to what the president said just 6 days ago or 5 days ago at that gridiron dinner here in Washington, where he said he would be, of course, open to talks if, in fact, North Korea committed to the potential for denuclearization, abandoning its nuclear weapons program. And it seems like that's where we are.
So how long do you think this lasted? All right, so there was one moment, for one moment, the press was ecstatic. Maybe we're not all going to die in a nuclear conflagration. Over. First of all, Twitter went nuts. Twitter, people on Twitter are going, I know it doesn't really matter what people on Twitter say because there's always somebody who will say something, but people on Twitter were saying, how can you call Trump a great president when Russia invaded our election? You know, it's like 13 trolls on Facebook spending less money than most people advertising exercise machines. And this is the worst thing that happened. But let's just go to Chuck Todd on Meet the Press. He's talking to Andrea Mitchell, where suddenly there's absolutely no way this can be a good thing.
How does any meeting between Trump and Kim not turn into a victory for the North Koreans?
It's hard to imagine how it doesn't. First of all, they've had a victory by setting the terms and by having the meeting itself, as you were pointing out. This is what all North Korean leaders have wanted. 3 generations have wanted a meeting legitimacy from an American president. It is not prepared. There was no letter, despite leaks that there was, so we do not yet know what he's really offering. And the Treasury Secretary with you repeated the phrase denuclearization. Our objective is denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. That is a trap. The Korean Peninsula means we eliminate our nuclear umbrella from our allies. What we want is for him to give up his illegal weapons, not for us to give up our nuclear security umbrella for South Korea and Japan. This just shows you the lack of, shall we say, competence or familiarity with these details.
So, Trump needs Andrea Mitchell to explain to him which side we want to get rid of the nuclear weapons on. Like that's thanks, Andrea. I didn't think of that. You want to see hypocrisy in action. We have to travel. Let's travel to Knucklehead Row for the op-ed page in the New York Times. So Nick Kristof, a steady card-carrying member of Knucklehead Row, here he is last year talking about how Trump's behavior is leading us to nuclear disaster in North Korea. This is cut number 3.
I went to North Korea not feeling particularly optimistic. I came back really feeling that we are not going to be able to stop them, that meaningful talks, some kind of a deal is not possible, and that nobody really wants a war, but we could well have one because of mismanagement. Well, Joe, I think that he is trying to intimidate the North Koreans and aims to get them to pull back. I don't think that's going to happen. And in fact, I think it's counterproductive. This is their turf of these kind of threats, and it does play into their narrative. This gives them legitimacy to pursue the kind of nuclear policies that they are pursuing, and puts us all on the edge of a cataclysm.
Kristof keeps pushing talks. We've got to have talks. We've got to have talks. They announce they're going to have talks. Here is Nick Kristof after the announcement.
I think, frankly, it's a dangerous gamble and a bad idea. And in some ways, I can't believe I'm saying that, because for years I've been arguing that we need to have direct talks between the U.S. and North Korea. But direct talks are one thing, and we need to have those negotiations. But any summit should be carefully preceded by going through what the deliverables are. And this is essentially a gift to North Korea. North Korea craves the recognition. It wants to be seen with its leader standing side by side with an American president. And it's fine to have that as the outcome of a long process where we get what we want. But to give that away without getting anything back at the beginning, I think is a mistake.
Just on general principles, if you get everything wrong up to an event, after the event, shouldn't you just start to listen instead of talk? You know, I have to say, I seriously wonder now whether the New York Times has issued actual marching orders telling people that they are not allowed to say anything nice about Donald Trump. I've seriously begun to wonder. Ross Douthat, Bret Stephens, they have lost their mind. I mean, Bret Stephens goes over there, a conservative, you know, with some kind of liberal conservative, I guess you'd call him, and suddenly he wants to repeal the Second Amendment. Ross Douthat, who's a really smart guy, has suddenly lost his way. You know you've gone nuts when the only person talking sense on your side is Bill Maher. Here's Bill Maher's perfectly sensible reaction to the announcement.
Fat man and little boy are going to have a date. It looks like Trump is going to travel to North Korea in May. And of course, there are reasons, 100 reasons why this is dangerous. We're talking about, after all, a family that has reneged on every deal they ever signed. And Kim Jong-un can't be trusted either. But you know what? I was watching all the cable news last night, and so all these liberals who are reflexively hating on this, Obama, remember him? Proposed the exact same thing in 2008, and they loved it. And B, you know, fuck you. You don't live on the West Coast, where a nuke can get here faster than an Uber from North Korea. I mean, what is this bullshit? No president has ever done this. Yeah, and they all failed. So I'm going to file this one under so crazy it just might work.
This is the only guy. First of all, he's the only comedian left on TV who's still telling jokes. He's attacking Trump, but at least he's pretty funny. Fat man and little boy. That's a funny line. So now Trump is in West. This is the way they're talking about him. They cannot let anything good happen under this guy. I mean, the job creation in February was huge. Well, the wages aren't going up as fast as they should. You know, this thing about the black and white participation in the job market, it has not been level since the 70s, for 40 years. It's for 40 years. And now blacks are finally coming back into the job market in such force that they are evening out with whites in participation. There's still disparities, still economic disparities, but still, this is good news, you know? A porn star really is that even news at all? You know, they always used to talk about this. The way they would excuse these sex stories is they would say it's the character issue. It's the character issue, because they wanted to make it sound serious when they were just being salacious and trying to get viewers with sex. We know Trump's character. We know what he was. He was a billionaire playboy who ran beauty contests and slept with everything he could get anywhere near. So what? So we know it already. It's just not new information. It's not really a story. So Trump goes to West Pennsylvania to push the special congressional election there, which could be close, which would be very bad sign. And he starts going after the press, and he goes after Chuck Todd. This is cut number 7.
You ever see the story where it's 1999. I'm on Meet the Press, a show now headed by Sleepy Eyes Chuck Todd. He's a sleeping son of a bitch, I'll tell you.
He goes after Chuck Todd. It's a personal attack. But his point was that he's been talking about North Korea all this time. So now Chuck Todd goes on with Steve Mnuchin, right? He has Mnuchin on, and you can see it on his face. He's so furious about this that he can't stick to the subject. The only thing he wants to talk about is Trump attacking him.
Many people, including myself, raise their kids to respect the office of the presidency and the president of the United States. When he uses vulgarity to talk about individuals, what are they supposed to tell their kids?
Again, I'll be with my kids this morning, and I'll be focused on them, on what the president is doing to protect the United States, its citizens, and more important,
So he's
its
not
economy.
immoral. Don't worry about his values. Don't worry about him as a role model.
I've never said that whatsoever, so I don't know why you're putting these words in what I'm trying to say, okay? So, again, I am very comfortable with what we're doing, okay? And again, I think you're trying to take this out of perspective and implying something I'm not saying.
Oh, fair enough. That what are you supposed to say when he's using these vulgarities to kids?
Again, I think you should be focused on what the policies are. He's using those vulgarities in the context of a campaign rally.
So what is Trump supposed to tell his kids when Chuck Todd literally can't imagine how a negotiation between the U.S. and North Korea could ever result in anything good? I mean, you know what they're like? They're like little kids who hit their big brothers, and their big brother finally turns around and smacks them one, and they're like, you can't do that. You hit me. You know, it's like the idea is that you're supposed to be able to attack Republicans. You know, I started this show by saying there's serious issues about Trump that we should really be talking about. None of them have to do with porn stars. There are serious questions about whether he has principles, whether he's going to stick to the things that we think are right for the country, how good are his instincts, and when we should pull away from his instincts. All kinds of questions I'd be willing to debate, talk about, think about. Porn star, do not care. Do not care. Sorry. I hope he had a good time.